The House Education Committee will come to order. Will the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Colazar.
Here.
Representatives Churches.
Present.
Shannon.
Present.
Weiss. Here. Glanville.
Here.
Conlon.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Wagella.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Markkinen.
Here.
Paquette. Wenzel.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Rep. Wagella moves to approve the minutes of the March 19th committee without objection, so ordered. I want to thank everybody for their patience there while we get rolling. First, we are going to be voting on the adoption of substitutes for the charter school transparency bills that we first took up in October. Briefly to describe the first substitute, I'm going to turn it over to Representative Weiss to talk about the changes that her substitute makes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Colazar. So, not much has changed here, just a few additional things. So it requires that in addition to listing the authorizing body and primary educational management organization on signage, advertising, and promotional materials for PSAs, the information must also be provided verbally and be present on the footer of a PSA website and enrollment application. Defines an educational management organization, or EMO, as an entity that enters into a management agreement with a public school academy. It defines a primary educational management organization as an EMO that is responsible for both the administrative services and staff and the educational services and staff. And it defines promotional materials as any billboard, internet, television, and radio advertisements.
Thank you. And just very briefly here, House Bill 5232, Representative Young's bill, same exact changes that Rep. Weiss made. It also exempts cyber schools of excellence from the physical signage requirement. Rep. Steckloff 5233, again, makes the identical changes to Rep. Weiss's bill, also defines an entity as a partnership, nonprofit, or business corporation, other association, trust, or other legal entity. And then finally, Rep. Scott's bill just makes the identical changes to Rep. Weiss's bill. So with that, Representative Churches makes a motion to adopt a substitute for House Bill 5231. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On motion of adopting the substitute, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Markkinen.
Yes.
Paquette. Wenzel.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 yeas, 0 nays, 0 pass. The H1 substitute for House Bill 5231 is adopted.
Thank you. And Representative Shannon makes a motion to adopt a substitute H1 for House Bill 5232. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On motion of adopting the substitute, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Markkinen.
Pass.
Paquette. Wenzel.
Pass.
Johnson.
Pass.
Mr. Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays, 3 pass. The H1 substitute for House Bill 5232 is adopted.
Thank you. And Representative Glanville makes a motion to adopt substitute H1 for House Bill 5233. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On motion of adopting the substitute, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Markkinen.
Yes.
Paquette. Wenzel.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 yeas, 0 nays, 0 pass. The H1 substitute for House Bill 5233 is adopted.
Thank you. And next up, Representative Conlon makes a motion to adopt substitute H1 for House Bill 5234. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On motion of adopting the substitute, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Markkinen.
Yes.
Paquette. Wenzel.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 yeas, 0 nays, 0 pass. The H1 substitute for House Bill 5234 is adopted.
Thank you. And next up, we will be taking these bills up for a vote. But first, I have some cards to read in. Not wishing to speak, supporting House Bill 5269, Jennifer Smith from Michigan Association of School Boards. I should also say these bills that we just had subs plus House Bill 5269. So not wishing to speak, supporting Jennifer Smith, Michigan Association of School Boards. House Bills 5231 through 5234, not wishing to speak, supporting the bills, Tammy Danzer, MEA. House Bills 5231 through 5234 and 5269. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bills, Mary Pollock from the American Association of University Women of Michigan. Not wishing to speak, not wishing to speak, opposing House Bills 5234 or 5231 through 5234 and 5269. Dr. Molly Masick, the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. And with that, Representative Weiss makes a motion to report House Bill 5231H1 with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
No.
Markkinen.
No.
Paquette. Wenzel.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 5231 is reported for recommendation as substituted.
Thank you. Next up, Representative Edwards makes a motion to report House Bill 5232H1 with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
No.
Markkinen.
No.
Paquette. Wenzel.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 5232 is reported for recommendation as substituted.
Thank you. Next up, Representative Wagella makes a motion to report House Bill 5233H1 with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
No.
Markkinen.
No.
Paquette. Wenzel.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 5233 is reported for recommendation as substituted.
Thank you. Next up, Representative Churches makes a motion to report House Bill 5234H1 with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
No.
Markkinen.
No.
Paquette. Wenzel.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. House Bill 5234 is reported for recommendation as substituted.
Thank you. And next up, Representative Shannon makes a motion to report House Bill 5269 with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On motion to report, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Green.
Pass.
Markkinen.
Pass.
Paquette. Wenzel.
Pass.
Johnson.
Pass.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays, 4 pass. House Bill 5269 is reported for recommendation.
Thank you. Deep breath. All right. Next up, we will be taking testimony on House Bills 5450 and 5451. I would like to welcome up Reps McDonald and Brixey for testimony. Just so committee members know, we are going to make sure we have those who wish to also testify, to make sure everyone has time. We are going to give 30 minutes for both presentation of their bills and Q&A from members. So with that, Reps, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Colazar and members of the committee. Am I close enough to the mic? Good. Representative Brixey and I are grateful for the opportunity to testify today. As many of you know, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, firearms are now the leading cause of death among American children after years of climbing up the annual rankings of childhood mortality. That means more than car accidents, more than any illness, firearm deaths are the leading cause of death among children. As we all know, Michigan is not exempt from this tragic reality. Our collective hearts in Michigan have been shattered in recent years by 2 horrific mass shootings, one last year at Michigan State University and one in 2021 at Oxford High School. I'm humbled to be giving testimony today with loved ones of victims of those horrific shootings. Their courage inspires me. But sadly, we're all part of the community that's experienced these acts of violence. School shootings are seared upon our memories forever. Even those of us not directly affected by these shootings have cried and mourned the young victims while fearing for our own children. And I'm sure every parent has had the agonizing experience of having to attempt to explain to our own children, to my older daughter when she was 11, when Sandy Hook happened, why anyone would target children at the places where they should feel the safest, at their schools. Also pertinent to our bills is the fact that for every mass shooting, there are many more suicides and deaths by accidental discharge that rarely make the headlines. Our bill package tackles this tragic problem, guns ending up in the hands of children. In Michigan, an estimated 150,000 children live in homes with loaded, unsecured firearms. We know that over 3/4 of school shooters obtain their weapons from home of their parents or from a close relative. And we know that over 700 American children commit suicide by firearm every year. The figures are unacceptable, and doing nothing to change them, I believe, is immoral. I'm proud to serve in a legislature that recognizes gun violence is a serious public policy issue. Rep. Brixey and I have developed a bill package that can combat those numbers. We call it Safe Homes, Safe Schools because we know that if we can keep guns out of children's hands at home, there will be fewer guns ending up in our children's schools. Early this year, the safe firearm storage laws that we passed last year became law in Michigan. These laws require adults with children in the home to secure their firearms when not in use with a gun safe or gun lock. The Safe Homes, Safe Schools package will complement that legislation. It's to everyone's benefit that Michigan parents who own firearms are made aware of the best practices for safe firearm storage. In considering the recent conviction of criminally negligent parents whose lax behavior led to the deaths of 4 students at Oxford High School, parents will likely be interested in learning how to follow the law and keep their children and their children's schoolmates safe. My Bill 5450 will require the Department of Health and Human Services to prepare and update annually an informational notice detailing 1, parental responsibilities under the safe storage laws, 2, answers to FAQs about the laws, and 3, guidance on how to obtain gun locks and safes, including free and low-cost options. This informational notice will be sent to the Department of Education, which will then forward it to all public school boards for distribution to parents. The governing bodies of non-public schools may also elect to receive the information, but it will not be mandatory. In effect, all public and participating non-public schools will have access to evidence-based, unbiased information on safe firearm storage. Now I'll give the floor to Rep. Brixey, who will tell you more about her bill, which governs the actual sharing of information with parents. And after that, we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Chair Kolazar and colleagues. I'm really happy to be able to join you today to talk about this important topic. Keeping our children safe in schools is something that seems like a very basic thing that we need to do. Our children have been forced to endure. Children of this generation who are graduating from college have been forced to endure school shooter tests at scenarios at school and live a lifestyle where they feel like their lawmakers care more about guns than they do about their lives. In the wake of the tragedy at Michigan State, these were the types of comments that I heard. So I'm very, very grateful to be here today to have an impact on the safety of our children in the place where they spend more time than the greatest amount of time other than in their own home. And I'm grateful to my colleague, Representative McDonald, for including me in this legislation. As we heard, the majority of K through 12 school shooters are children, and the majority of accidental child firearm deaths are the result of guns left loaded and unlocked. A recent study took a look at scenarios where children under 15 died from firearm injury in the U.S. And when kids aged 5 or younger died in firearm fatalities, it was generally self-inflicted, the result of mistaking the gun for a toy. Kids between 5 and 10 were more likely to have been shot by other children showing off a gun. And where were they finding these firearms? Usually at home, often stored in the bedroom, in a nightstand, or next to the bed. Many of their parents likely bought these guns with the idea that they were protecting their families. We all want to protect our families, but failing to store a firearm properly only invites preventable tragedy into the home. That's why safe storage was such a huge victory for our state. It can do so much to prevent accidental child deaths, school shootings, and suicides. But we're usually not going to know when someone is failing to follow this law until it's too late. And that's why it's so important to make sure that parents are aware of these laws. The new gun reforms recently went into effect, and the Crumbly trial has kept safe storage in the news and on everyone's minds. Well, we want to make sure that over time, families remain aware of this requirement, including people who are new parents for the first time. And how best to do that is to intercede at school where we find children. We need to make sure that parents moving to Michigan from other states are aware of this legislation. We need to make sure that parents getting married into blended families are aware of this legislation. Our state is already doing a good job collaborating to protect our children. The state police have just partnered with the Department of Health and Human Services to provide free gun locks to any who request one. And I'm so grateful that they're doing so much to keep kids safe and help parents meet this new requirement. Safe homes, safe schools is just another example of how we're helping families protect their children. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Question for Representative McDonnell. I know that Clawson Schools, I believe, has this policy at the local level. That is correct, right?
Yes, that is my understanding. Actually, I believe they've taken on the Be Smart concept from, I think, Moms Demand Action, which this is kind of modeled after. This group has been going school district to school district year after year asking school boards to do this. And this is a way of just trying to cut that work down and just having everyone be aware.
Gotcha. Thank you. Other questions? Representative Green.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. As a responsible gun owner myself, I understand the importance of safe storage, but I'm concerned that where the best practice information is coming from, that somebody who I'm surprised is absent from the room is the Michigan State Police, that it's DHHS that's responsible for this and not the folks who know more about gun safety. No, go on.
As we were working our way through these bills, at one point the Michigan State Police were considering being the body that would write this information, but they decided ultimately to defer to DHHS. And as one of our stakeholders, they don't have a position because they're deferring to DHHS. So this has been part of the conversation.
Interesting. So what other gun safety experts then are involved? That's the thing, I guess. I'm like, where is the information coming from? Because I understand, there's studies. You've just presented information. So where are the studies of what's the actual proper place to put them, or?
I don't have information on that. I can get you that. We could
Okay.
have someone from DHHS come up and speak to that, but I don't know if she's.
So we have a law on safe storage that dictates where the weapons, how and in what manner and where with what items the weapons need to be secured.
So this is
Okay.
just informing
And
them of
this
the
is
law?
just informing them about the law, and that's why the DHHS is the body to disseminate that information. And that's coming from best practices in terms of informing parents, coming from the medical side of things, which is where you see the gunshot victims coming in. So our legislation doesn't affect how it's affecting dissemination of the information so that people are aware of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Glanville.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions. Well, I had a question of my own or a comment, but I wanted to just clarify what we just heard. So my understanding is that MDHHS essentially oversees public health in the state. Is that right? So it seems to me that as our public health officials, they maybe are the best place for this information to come from, and I trust that they will confer with the necessary subject matter experts as they're putting this information together, as well as looking back on the laws that we passed. So I appreciate that. I've worked with some public health programs in my district, and the work that they do, this sounds exactly in their lanes. So while it might seem like the police should be doing this, it really is a public health issue. So I appreciate that.
If I could add to that observation, which is absolutely correct, Representative Glanville, gun deaths are really a kind of epidemic. And as such, the public health officials are the people who can offer important guidance to us because they're seeing the results of this epidemic, and we're wanting to help stop that. And the intervening at the school level is a really, really important place to get this information so that children do not accidentally or inadvertently harm themselves or others with improperly stored weapons.
And that's what I wanted to add in my additional comment. In my district, we've had, I think, 3 incidents in the last year where kids brought a gun loaded or unloaded to school in their backpack. Prior to these laws going into effect, parents were charged with neglect. And so we are looking at situations where, because people were uninformed about safe storage, being it a law or not, they weren't following those practices. It really puts the entire family unit in danger. If we're looking now at parents who are being charged with child neglect, cases and involving CPS because guns are available in the home. So I think this is a great way to get at that and help protect families overall. And then also, I think having this information disseminated directly to families will help them have conversations with extended family as well. Grandparents and others who may not have kids in school, will then learn, be able to share this information so that we can extend those protections, because that, again, just happened recently in my district where a grandparent, a child just, I think it was last week or the week before, there was a death because a grandparent had a gun unsafely stored. So I really appreciate the communication on this and what we're going to be doing to help protect our kids and families.
Thank you, Representative Markkinen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you both for being here this morning. I just wanted to let you know that gun locks have been sold with weapons for years now. So they are readily available. When you purchase a pistol or a firearm, a rifle or a shotgun, they come with a gun lock.
And that's true, and we just want to make sure that people use them, because I think we have heard stories of gun locks never coming out of their boxes or wrappers.
That's too bad.
But just the idea of let's go that extra step and really use them and protect everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for your concerns here. I just wanted to be clear, this is going to go on a website for schools and maybe a flyer sent home, but no actual teaching time will be used?
That's correct. The idea is, I know in my school district, by the time my kids were in high school, everything came home digitally. We would get a packet of flyers every Friday, and it would be that sort of thing. There may be some school districts that still send home printed flyers, so those would probably be the two modes. I don't think it covers being on a website or anything, that it would just go home that way.
And it allows for either electronic transmission of the information or paper transmission. So if you have a school that is disseminating the parents' weekly info through email, they'll get an email about it. But for those parents who don't have access to email, paper copies would be provided.
Thank you. Representative Weiss.
Thank you. My question is kind of off of that as well. I think I really appreciate this legislation because I think a lot of times we pass legislation with the best of intentions, but then people don't know about it. And if people don't know about it, they can't follow it. Particularly new legislation. We're seeing that a lot with like the drive safe legislation, for example. Shout out our chair. There's a lot of PSAs and things going out as people kind of become more familiar with and learn about the law. And so I think, obviously parents with small children at home who are gun owners, they have who have their children in school, this is a great way to be able to get that information to them, to make sure that they have the information, that they are aware of this legislation, and that they understand why it's important as well, to make sure that their kids are safe and that their firearms are secure at home. I did have a quick question about just a technical piece of the bill. I know that there's a requirement that I think that actually might be on the MDE website. I don't know if this is also a requirement for information that goes home, that the information be available in English, Spanish, and Arabic. Just wanted to clarification if that is required, that information is available for parents if they need that, and if there are any other languages that may become available as well if necessary.
Those are the three languages that we have discussed so far. If you have any suggestions, let us know, but we can look into other things.
I think that covers the vast majority. I was just curious if there are other translation services available if parents needed them.
We can look into that.
Okay.
Thank you. Representative Collin, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wondered, along with what Rep. Weiss was saying about PSAs going out, do we have any idea if these gun laws are put up at gun ranges? To let people know if they're there at a gun range with their children, if there's anything up. I'm just thinking, even at the Oxford situation, the mother might have seen something about locking up your firearms, although we didn't have the law at the time, but.
I sense a bill request is in the making.
Okay, and on that, we have no further questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We do have several people wishing to testify. Before we get started with that, I would ask that we will keep testimony limited to 5 minutes, but then we'll allow additional time for Q&A if members have questions regarding the testimony. So first up, I would like to welcome up Ted Werner. If you would like to come on up. Thank you for being here today, and the floor is yours.
Well, good morning. My name is Ted Werner. Me and my family are a victim of gun violence. We lost our daughter, Alex Werner, at the MSU shooting in February last year. I'm also a school board member in the city of Clawson. I always try to educate people about Clawson because it's so small, nobody knows where it is or where it exists. We're between Troy and Royal Oak. We're 2 miles by 2 miles, and we're a tiny little town, and we're very proud of our town. Last year, Clawson School District, we agreed to educate our parents about Be Safe gun storage, and it seemed like a no-brainer at the time. It was impactful at the time because it was shortly after my daughter had lost her life, and Clawson rallied around my family and tried to educate people. The Be Safe storage policy education that we sent out to our parents was nothing more. It wasn't pro-gun, it wasn't against gun. It was educating someone that if you have a gun, how to properly store it. We heard some testimony about lives that are lost. I encourage each and every one of you to think about what you're voting on and how you're doing it. It's so important because someday, and it's not that far away, it's becoming the norm, you're going to be on this side of the table. I was on that side of the table. I never thought I would be in this position. For whatever reason, God has chosen me and my family to do this. And the reason is because my daughter's life was taken from us. So if we can stop endless people losing their lives, children losing their lives, by a piece of paper that is sent home to parents electronically, in the old form piece of paper, whatever it is, so that they can understand the importance of storing a gun properly, I can't think of any resistance on why you would do that. None whatsoever. So I encourage you to do so. And again, I say this, and it's becoming my motto. It's becoming more of the norm. You will be on this side of the table. If you're not already, it will affect your life. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I know I can speak for the entire committee. Just again, sorry for your loss. And just want to applaud you on turning that loss into activism for the safety of others. That takes a lot of courage, and thank you for doing that. I do have a question regarding Clawson. Can you tell me about what the reception has been like in the community to this policy, and just what parents and families have been saying about it locally?
Sure. When it was first brought to our attention, Moms Demanding Action had approached our superintendent about educating people about this. And so we debated it multiple times in our school board meetings. And we talked about it very openly. It's one of the things that I think I'm very proud about the city of Clawson is we don't have personal agendas. We speak very openly about what we're going to be doing. And when we talked about this, we spoke about very similar, that this is educating our parents if they have a gun. And the reception that we got was almost nothing. And what I mean by that is I thought we would get some pushback. I thought that we would have gun activists or someone who was pushing their own agenda might push back against us, and we received none of that. It was actually it was the parents that the feedback that we got from parents was thank you. Not everyone knows how to properly store a gun. You had mentioned that guns come with gun locks on them. They do, but they're not used. Parents put guns by next to their nightstand because they feel they need to be protected. I can appreciate that. We have residents and school of choice kids and from all over Oakland County that come to Clawson. So we have a very diverse community. And I'm very sympathetic to that not everyone lives in a safe, clean area, and you have to protect yourself. But by protecting yourself, you can do it in a safe manner.
Thank you. Other questions? Representative Weiss.
I just want to thank you for your activism on this and to echo the chair's comments.
Thank you.
Thank you for leading on this and you very much are honoring your daughter's memory, and we appreciate you being here today. I just wanted to also kind of stress and say, we talk a lot about trying to do things to prevent mass shootings, which we should. But when we talk about the statistics and the majority of young people dying from gun violence, that's usually because of guns being improperly stored at home and accidental shootings that occur. And so I think it's very important that parents know about that. We've done a lot to educate folks about how to improve safety around, things like fire safety, driving safety, and this is just another thing that we need to do to make sure that we're keeping kids safe. It's as simple as just keeping kids safe. I appreciate you being here. I'm glad to hear that it was not controversial in Clawson, because it doesn't seem like it's something that should be controversial.
No, and our role as in a school board is to educate. And whether it's the children, the parents, the teachers, the staff, that's what we're here to do. And that was all we were doing, is trying to get information out and helping people understand their role if they have a gun, how to properly store it, so their kids can come to school the next day. It's really what it was all about.
Thank you. Representative Glanville.
I just want to echo the comments of my colleagues as well. Thank you for being here today. And I'm, as a former teacher and a gun violence survivor myself, the work that you're doing is so important. And I'm sorry that it came about in the way that it did, but I am grateful that you are able to move forward and make some positive changes that will impact us all. That said, I know one of my colleagues specifically asked about teaching time being used for this information, and I was wondering if there's been any conversation at Clausen or if you feel a need to expand this campaign in some way. For example, maybe at a back-to-school night, is this talked about, or do you feel like it should be? And then also, is there an avenue for getting this information to kids so that they can advocate at home as well? You know, maybe parents, if they get a whole stack of things, they might not read them all. Not that I ever did that. But just wondering how we're involving kids too and helping to advocate for this, you know, and be that voice also, kind of teaching them how to do that.
I can speak for Clausen and how we did it. It was nothing more than an informational pamphlet that was sent home. So there was not teaching time that was put towards it. We have an amazing superintendent in Bill Schellenbarger who is constantly looking at different ways on how we can help educate our families. I know he's spoken openly about it. He has a monthly coffee with the superintendent. And so if someone has questions, concerns, he makes himself very readily available to speak about it. I know our administrative staff, especially at the high school, is willing to talk to any parent if they had any questions or concern. As a school board, we're open. We're right there. You know, Clausen has 1,600 students from K to kindergarten. It's not that big. It's very small. So you know everyone. It's a very small town. I get approached every day in our town, and people ask me questions, and people ask me questions about it. And again, all I did is said, read it, understand it. You have questions, we're happy to help you. So to answer your question about school time, no, we did not. Is it something that I would advocate? Probably, because my kids helped educate me. There's no doubt about it. My daughter Alex was beyond her years in wisdom. I might lean a little bit right on my politics. She might lean a little bit left, and that's what made us a great combination. She checked me. So having kids get this information at the right level, I think it's probably not a bad idea.
Thank you, and thank you again for coming in today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have from Everytown, Dr. Christine Schlesser. I hope I said that right. Along with, and I'll have everyone come up at once, Annie Gallagher, a counselor in the Troy School District, and, Celine she's on Zoom. So Celine Coromenos Seblis. If I did make a mistake there, we will give you that opportunity. That's a student from Huron High School. We'll have you go third. We'll have our in-persons go first. So we're going to just go 5 minutes per person. So whoever would like to kick us off.
Okay, good morning, Chairman Colazar and committee members. Thank you for hearing my testimony. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. My name is Christine Slusher. I'm a Michigan native currently living in Northville, a mom of 2 elementary school age daughters, a Moms Demand Action member, and I'm also a family physician for Trinity Health. I'm testifying today in support of House Bills 5450 and 5451. As has already been mentioned, gun violence is now the leading cause of death for children in our country. It is number 1, surpassing motor vehicle accidents, cancer, or any other injury or illness. Because of this, it has crossed into the realm of healthcare. It is, in fact, a public health crisis. It is now a discussion I have with patients in the office. The majority of these gun-related deaths of our children and teens are from suicide and homicide, followed by unintentional shootings. Most of these children and teens who attempt suicide do not die unless they use a gun. 90% of suicide attempts involving a gun result in death. Many of these children and teens are getting these guns, as has been mentioned, from their own home. 4.6 million children in the U.S. live in a home with at least one unlocked and loaded gun. Secure storage, we know, will save many of their lives. One study found households that lacked both firearms and ammunition were associated with a 78% lower risk of self-inflicted firearm injury and 85% lower risk of unintentional firearm injury among children and teens, compared to those that lacked neither. The passage of the secure storage law in Michigan was a great first step. Now we need to make sure our communities are informed about the law, educated about secure storage, and given resources on how to obtain a gun lock. I'm working hard to educate my patients, as well as other doctors, about the importance of secure storage. I'm working hard to treat children and teenagers with depression, substance abuse, and other mental health challenges. I am now even giving out gun locks in our waiting rooms. I need your help. We need to reach all families in our state and teach them what secure storage means, what our new laws are, and how to obtain and use gun locks. These bills would have a powerful reach by requiring schools to disseminate this life-saving information. On behalf of all the health professionals out there trying to keep our youngest patients safe, as well as fellow parents and Mom Demand Action members, I urge you to pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. Good morning, Chairman Kolazar, committee members, and staff. Thank you for acknowledging my testimony today. My name is Annie Gallagher, and I'm currently in my 15th year of teaching. 8 of these years have been in my home state of Michigan as a high school teacher. I'm testifying today in support of House Bills 5450 and 5451, requiring that the Department of Health and Human Services develop public information about the secure storage of firearms and require the distribution of secure storage information to all parents of students enrolled in public schools. Ultimately, secure gun storage prevents children and teens from accessing guns. Being a teacher in America today is challenging. In addition to the daily tasks of lesson planning, teaching classes, hosting meetings, grading, and managing student behaviors, the emotional toll of this profession is limitless. School shootings are an absurd reality that I know I'm not alone in being afraid of. In May of 2022, just 6 months after the shooting at Oxford High School and 2 days after the shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, the career that I had once dreamed of and worked hard at perfecting was changed forever. It was this afternoon when a former troubled student of mine returned to our building without invitation. Having not been a student there for years, it was alarming to me as to why he was now choosing to be present. He was allowed inside our building, roamed the halls to visit, and spoke hatred of me to a close colleague. A few years prior to this moment, this exact student was assigned to 2 of my classes. Many of the signs we are told to look for as teachers as red flags were prevalent in my experience with him. In lieu of doing classwork, he drew pictures of guns and swastikas in his notebook. He was isolated from his peers and did not seem to fit into any social groups. And his parents were not responsive to my requests for support from home. So, you can imagine, clearly, that unexpectedly seeing him shortly after another school shooting, all of my what-ifs were brought to life. The local police began an investigation to determine the level of intent behind his appearance that day. But the damage to my well-being was already done. It was this day and the ones that followed where I wholeheartedly believed that my career as a teacher was over. I also believed that my life and the lives of my family members were in danger. I lost all trust in my safety at my place of work. It took me 3 days to get out of bed. It took me over a week to even step outside of my home, and it took me multiple weeks to return to my job. And this was all from a perceived threat. I am not solely affected by things like this. There is not a day that goes by where Michigan's teachers don't worry about potential scenarios similar to the one that I experienced. Michigan's secure storage law, which requires gun owners to responsibly store their firearms in the home when minors are present, adds a level of ease to the daily worries of a teacher. Yet we cannot expect the public to understand this law without being taught. The Safe Homes, Safe Schools bill package would provide critical public education to Michiganders around the importance of being responsible gun owners. According to Everytown for Gun Safety, guns are the leading cause of death among children and teens in Michigan. In Michigan, an average of 103 children and teens die by guns every year. 103. 31% of these deaths are suicides, and 64% of these deaths are homicides. When we protect our kids from the dangers of gun violence, the whole community stands to benefit. I am proud to be a Michigander, and I am impressed by the recent work we are doing and have done to improve gun safety. Yet Michigan has the 21st highest rate of gun violence in the United States. Our communities deserve more. Our children deserve more. And Michigan's teachers deserve more. House Bills 5450 and 5451 would do just that. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing your story as well. Next, we're going to go to Zoom, which I really apologize. I feel like I probably butchered your last name. So if you don't mind just repeating your name before you get started, you are on mute as well, just so you know. There you go. And thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you so much. Can you guys all hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman Colazar, committee members, and staff. Thank you so much for acknowledging my testimony today. My name is Selene Cormenos Sibelis. I'm 17 years old, a junior in high school, and a volunteer and chapter lead for Students Demand Action. I also work with the University of Michigan's Institute for Firearm Injury Prevention as a youth advisor, and I'm testifying today in support of House Bills 5450 and 5451. Secure gun storage stops kids from accessing guns and saves lives. And I want to start with being honest with all of you today. I'm supposed to be in school right now, and instead I am missing class in the hope that by sharing my perspective today, progress can be made that results in safer environments for me and my peers. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a town widely recognized as one of the best places to grow up, in large part because of how safe it is. And even in my hometown, in Ann Arbor, I don't feel safe. Teachers and administrators encourage students to focus on getting ready for our futures, but how can we do that if we aren't sure we'll live to see them? Gun violence has directly impacted my entire school community. We all know what it's like to hear the news that someone from our school is hospitalized because they were shot. We all know what it's like to sit for hours in lockdowns. This epidemic of gun violence has changed and taken so many lives, and that's irreversible. It's molded and impacted my entire generation. We've grown up in a country filled with violence in places where we should feel the safest. No matter where we live or go to school, we don't feel safe. And a large part of my high school experience has been spent protesting, demonstrating, and organizing to bring about change and to feel safer. That's what I've spent years of my childhood on. And my experience leads me to emphasize the importance of progress in gun safety legislation today, especially in schools and among youth, which is what you can do with House Bills 5450 and 5451. This legislation can make a difference. It can change things for me and my entire school community and do the same for kids everywhere in Michigan. Everytown currently ranks Michigan as 20th in the nation for our gun safety legislation. Progress has been made this past year, and your constituents do see that, but there's more work to do, including with securely storing guns. One study found that households that locked both firearms and ammunition were associated with a 78% lower risk of self-inflicted firearm injuries and an 85% lower risk of unintentional firearm injuries among children and teens, compared to those that locked neither. Information like this about secure storage should be shared. Secure storage accompanied by widespread education on the matter is what Michigan needs. It's why I will keep advocating for this cause with these gun safety bills and with the ones that I hope will follow. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Wagella.
Just kind of in general, maybe for every town, I was trying to find the words here. I think a really important part of this discussion is like not just looking at us state by state, but looking at like the globe. And, you know, according to Global Peace Index, the United States is ranked 133 out of 163. This summer, I had a chance to go to Iceland, a country that also which is ranked number 1 on that list, by the way, has a lot of differences from the United States. But one thing that's similar is it has a lot of guns, actually. But they have very, very strict gun laws. And they have other things, too, that we don't have. For example, like childhood poverty is almost non-existent when the United States it's very a high rate. So my question is this: can you see this law, you know, kind of in the education of safe storage? Can you talk a little bit more about how maybe that will make the United States a more safe and peaceful place to live?
Yeah, definitely. I think something that kids do talk about a lot, that I speak about with my peers, but that I also hear classmates and friends talking about, is how we know that the United States isn't the only country that has had this problem. It is just the country that has still failed to solve it. And I think taking examples from legislation or solutions that have worked in other places as inspiration can be really effective. And I think that specifically with this pair of bills, a lot of progress can be made and a lot of hope can be brought, because students will see this. We will see that this information is being sent home to our parents and guardians. We will see that our administrators care, our teachers care, our legislators care, and we will see that progress in action, because it'll be going home with us. It'll be sent to our parents. We know that it's happening. We will see it firsthand. That will make a difference in how we feel in our schools and how we feel going about our day. And it will make a difference knowing that our community members and our friends' parents, our classmates' parents, that everyone is educated on this. That will bring a completely new sense of safety, which is why I think this pair of bills is so important.
Wonderfully said. And then to add, I think the bill package is the educational tool we need for safe storage. We have Be Smart, which has been mentioned several times, which is an educational tool used in community events or teaching events, and that's a presentation to parents. But then we also have for ERPO, we have One Thing You Can Do. That's through Everytown as well. So all of this is going to address the secure storage education that we need. 5450 and 5451 are going to get the disseminated information out to the community, because they just don't know unless you're taught.
Are you good? Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't interrupting anybody. All right. And with that, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mary Mueller, who is an Oxford parent. Oh, she is not. Oh, okay. Sorry, I had her as testifying. Thank you. Appreciate it. In that case, we have Dr. Cheryl Kennedy from the Michigan Department of Education.
Thank you. Chair Kolazar and members of the committee, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bills 5450 and 5451. I would also like to thank the sponsors, Representatives McDonnell and Brixey, for introducing these bills. In March of last year, State Board of Education President Dr. Pamela Pugh and State Superintendent Dr. Michael Rice testified before the Senate Committee on Civil Rights, Judiciary, and Public Safety in support of the gun safety package that would later be approved by the legislature and signed into law by the governor last spring. Included in that package was PA 17 of 2023, requiring the safe storage of firearms. Michigan learned too well the price of gun violence when twice in 15 months we lost young people in our schools, first in Oxford and then at MSU. But these high-profile tragedies don't account for the loss we suffer daily from accidental shootings and self-harm events that occur because guns are not safely stored. We know that laws themselves cannot fully protect us, but the passage of the safe storage law was a good start. Now we need to ensure that our communities, especially our parents of school-aged children, are made aware of this information. House Bill 5450 would require informational notice containing best practices regarding the storage of firearms. MDE would then distribute this informational document to all public schools and to non-public schools upon request. Our department sends a weekly communication memo to all public school districts and could easily distribute this notice. House Bill 5451 would require schools to distribute this notice to the parents and legal guardians of all students. This notice could be accompanied in the beginning year paperwork, electronic transmission, or any other method that the district sees fit for its community. As of February 13th of this year, Michigan has a new safe storage law. The logical next step is to be certain that the parents and other adults who care for children in our communities know the requirements of the law so they can ensure the safety of their children. The new requirements in these bills are small and simply require an informational notice for schools to send to parents and guardians. However, providing this information could make a significant impact on the well-being of Michigan children and will save lives. Thank you again for allowing me to speak this morning, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions? Oh, Representative Johnson.
Thank you for being here. Do you think this is just a storage conversation? But do you think it's possible that it would be helpful to also have available at the school, maybe whether it's evening or elective or whatever, gun safety, hunter safety classes so people are just safe with the proper use of guns overall?
We have seen some bills drafted that would allow for those types of courses, and the department would not be opposed to that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Next up on Zoom, we have Liz Morley.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to share my support of the Safe Home and Safe Schools bills. My name is Liz Morley, and I have two boys, twins, who attend Oxford High School. And they are seniors now, and they were 15 at the time of the shooting. My one son, Noah, called my husband to notify him that there was an active shooter in the school. Trust me, that is a call that you never want to receive. After the call, we stayed in contact with the boys via text only in order for them to remain quiet. Noah apologized to my husband and said, that he was sorry for being a bad kid. He was scared and wanted to make sure he said that in case he wasn't able to get out safely. He's not a bad kid. The school advised parents not to come to the school, and so all we could do was wait. We waited outside with neighbors who also have teenage children in high school. We heard that one of the girls had thrown her backpack out the window. She dove out the window and she ran in terror all the way to Meyer. I made the mistake of contacting my parents and my sister right away. So they lived through in real time, the terrifying day right along with us. My stepmom had said, just let us know as soon as they're in your arms. Fortunately, our boys were locked safely in their classrooms in fear of their lives until the SWAT team came to release them. My husband went to Meyer to pick them up, and the reuniting of my husband and my son Noah can only be described as a slow motion movie scene where, with tears in their eyes, they, embraced longer than usual, and in the middle of a parking lot. My husband, Micah, who is not typically emotional, spent the next 2 days after the shooting crying because he was just overwhelmed with helplessness. Fathers are supposed to be the ones who protect their children, and there just was nothing that he could do. And as for me, before the shooting, I was, a trusting person, believing for the most part that people were good. And after the shooting, everywhere I went, I just kept picturing that people were carrying guns. I now take anti-anxiety medication, like the majority of people in the Oxford community who have been traumatized by the school shooting. Our boys say that they're okay. Um, we hope that that's true, but I guess we won't really know for years to come. Um, our son Aiden, I mentioned they were twins. Our son Aiden did not react on the day of the shooting, and he hasn't since. And there are other school shooting uninjured victims who don't really know the full impact until much later when they are parents themselves. 4 beautiful souls were lost to our senseless shooting. Their families will never be the same. Others lost dear friends. Some were injured and survived, but are still battling ailments or have broken spirits, which is devastating, heartbreaking, and unfair. And then others were unlucky to be present at 2 shootings, Oxford High School and the MSU. And we've seen the impact of that firsthand on our friends. The impact of the school shooting is devastating and far-reaching. I support the Safe Homes, Safe Schools bills because they can help prevent mass shootings. There have already been more than 170 mass shootings in K through 12 schools this year. We need to do more. Gun violence, as mentioned, is an epidemic. We can educate individuals on properly securing a weapon, which can help reduce the impact not only in schools, but in all spaces. Thank you for listening, and may you never get the call from your child that there's an active shooter in their school.
Thank you. And seeing no questions, thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have, and I believe this is our last people testifying. We have Susan and Benjamin Arthur, whose daughter Phoebe was injured in Oxford. Whenever you would like, the floor is yours. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Yep. You're up.
So, thank you. Good morning. I'm Benjamin Arthur, the father of Phoebe Arthur, one of the kids who was injured at the Oxford High School shooting. That, in an instant, a troubled teenager with access to an unsecure weapon forever changed the trajectory of her life. With the help of the first responders and paramedics and the gifted hands of emergency room surgeons, her daughter was survived. Excuse me, I'm very nervous. This legislation, having this in place is, it's great. It's a good start. We have the secure, what is it called? Secure storage law, but we need to get this word out. For instance, I have friends at work who followed along with my daughter's recovery. And when I mentioned the secure storage law, they're like, "What? What's this?" And that's not right. How do they not know? How is someone who's following this story not know about the the effects of it down the road, right? Like things we've put in place after these horrible shootings. So I just feel like it's pretty simple if we send out this information to with the kids to home, you know, via email or flyers that they pass out. At least the message is getting out. This a big problem I think is that we pass a lot of laws, but not everyone's paying attention all the time. And so that's pretty much all I've got.
Mrs. Arthur, would you like to add some comments?
Yep. So my name is Susan Arthur. I am the stepmother for Phoebe Arthur. And on November 30th, as my stepdaughter was walking down the hallway at Oxford High School on her way to her language arts class, she was thinking about what they would be doing in class and was looking forward to continuing the reading they were doing on Romeo and Juliet. At that moment, another student stepped out of the bathroom with a gun in his hand. As he lifted his arm and aimed his weapon at her, she had no time to react except to pull her shoulders up towards her head and brace for what she knew was coming. Within 1 second, he shot her 3 times, critically wounding her. A day that started out as a normal school day ended with her fighting for her life on an operating table, while their family sat in a small hospital waiting room in shock, trying to comprehend what was happening. The Oxford shooter shot his first 7 victims in 7 seconds. I want you to really think about how fast 7 seconds is. The students who were in the hallway where he first started shooting had no chance to run, hide, or utilize any of the active shooter drills that are practiced in every school. Our focus as a society has largely been on the reaction to a threat after it happens, as opposed to the prevention. While I'm glad that Oxford schools practice and have a strong active shooter protocol, as I do believe it saved many lives that day, the only thing that would have saved my stepdaughter from the pain and suffering she has endured and saved the lives of other children are strong and well-instituted prevention measures. Since that day, it has been on my mind, all the things that could have been done to intervene so that the shooting never happened. Something as simple as putting a cable lock on the weapon could have changed everything. Michigan has taken a good first step towards prevention by passing legislation on safe storage for guns. Yet these laws are only useful if those with weapons are both aware of the law and follow it. Like Ben said, he talks to people at his work and they don't even know that this law has been passed. And when he told me that it just amazed me that they don't even know that this is a law and they have children in their home. Our school system is in a unique position to assist in getting information out to families that will help educate them on the law, answer questions, and give information on where to find affordable and safe storage for their weapons. In our minds, this is a simple and easy bill to pass. It's affordable, it doesn't take much time, and it could easily save lives and prevent so much suffering. This is why we support the Safe Homes and Safe Schools bills and encourage you to do the same. And I also ask each of you to please don't stop here, as there is so much more left to do. Safe storage of guns is one part of a larger puzzle. We also need to look at putting threat assessment policies in every school, along with proper and continual training of staff on those policies. Because a threat assessment policy will not do anyone any good if it sits on a shelf collecting dust and no one knows how or when to use it. We need to look at counselor caseloads and instituting peer support programs. Active shooter drills are not enough, because if we are at the point where we're activating the active shooter protocol, then that means there has already been a first victim shot. And in Oxford, that first victim was my stepdaughter. My goal, and I hope your goal as well, is for there to never be a first shot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for having the courage to share about such a horrific event. We have no questions, so I'm going to read in some cards. Not wishing to speak, supporting both bills, Jennifer Smith, Michigan Association of School Boards. Not wishing to speak and supporting the bills, Paul Stankiewicz from Michigan Catholic Conference. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bills, Brian Broderick from Michigan Association of Non-Public Schools. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bills, Mary Pollock from the Michigan Association of University Women of Michigan. Not wishing to speak and supporting the bills, Tammy Danzer, Michigan Education Association. And not wishing to speak, supporting the bills, Jen Garland from the Michigan Parent Teacher Association. Vice Chair Green moves to excuse absent members without objection. Absent members are excused, and there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.